We are live now, Divya.
Okay, thank you, Kranti. Hi, team. So, in our previous sessions, we got to know how to do the classification, how to do the extraction, how to generate a AFL file, and how to generate a document definition. And also, we have seen a bit of coding with respect to the document definition, how we can add a simple scripts in the document definition, either to modify the existing data or to do any of the simple calculations. Today, let's go ahead and cover one of the another topic in the Flexi Layout Studio, where how we can just go ahead and add the code inside of the Flexi Layout Studio, and what and all we can just make sure about the validations in the Flexi Layout Studio, and how we can play with the code inside of the Flexi Layout Studio. So this is the same layout which we have created in our previous session. This is the example 123. So now I have just created a set of static elements and a set of value elements. So now let's see how am I going to make it so generic template. So even without based on any of the companies, as soon as it gets any of the labels, it should just go ahead and extract those values. So these are the kind of templates or the coding where we are just going to use that when we are creating a generic template for any of the receipts, any of the invoices which we are going to process, or any of the document, maybe a partial similar kind of documents to process and for the extraction, right? So here we do have a set of all the static elements. So here I have an invoice date, due date, subtotal, and also in the header I do have the invoice number, and yeah, and I do have the required element as an invoice, which is the invoice number references. So now what I have to do, for example, now while we are receiving all the documents in any of the input as a hot folder, there might be a chances where we just go ahead and receive any kind of receipts or any kind of documents where we need to go ahead and extract the values only when there is a set of static element has been existed. So now we know like how to restrict, how to play with this how to play with the required element, prohibited element, and the optional element. But there is also a way where I can just go ahead and restrict at the field level. Even though the whole invoice is available, there might be a chances in the same invoices we might have two or three different varieties, and in two or three different types of varieties I might not have the same label all the time, or we might not have any of the couple of labels at all. And hence, since we are making this as a just optional element, there might be a chances where it go and extract some other junk value. So, but we will not be able to make all the elements as a required elements. There might be a chances where there are few fields or optional elements, but which needs to be taken care, and also that needs to be extracted and compatible with multiple layouts. Basically, when we are creating a generic layout, so how can we do that? So let me show you one thing. So here I have an element. So here I do have do not find the element if. Okay, I'm just going to add. So if found or if not found, here we do have both the option. So basically what I want is when this invoice date value has to be extracted only when the invoice label is available. If the invoice date label is not available, I don't want this value to be extracted. So for that, what I have to do is like here in the drop down, I have to select if is not found of this specific static text. Oh, sorry, I am modifying the static text itself. So I'll just go to the values, invoice date, the value. I'm going to add a condition here. If not found of the static text called invoice date. Okay. I'll click on add condition, apply, and okay. So now adding this condition, whenever there is no invoice date label, this value will not be extracted. And this is the way where you can just go ahead and handle not to extract the junk when there is no respective labels are not found. And also it is not compulsory, it is not necessary that you have to add only one. You can just go and add as many as you can. But when I just go ahead and add this another condition called invoice not found, click on OK. By default, whatever the number of conditions we are going to give here, it would be an or condition. But for now, for us, it should be an and condition. If my invoice has both invoice number and as well as invoice date labels, then only you have to go ahead and extract the values. That is the condition which I have to mention. But as I said, by default it would be an or condition. So how can I just convert this into an and condition? So that's where we can just click on to this advanced option and we can click on the code. So if you just look at the code, here we do have all the conditions. And what we can just do is we can just copy all of this code, Control A, Control C. You can just click on cancel and in advanced. So here we do have an option whether the condition should be applied in the pre-search relation or whether should this condition should be applied, I'm sorry, the post search relation. So obviously we have to go with the pre-search because whatever the conditions which we are checking, that should be applied before we search for any of the elements. So we can just click here and paste it over here. And I'm just going to increase my this one. And here, if the example of static reference is null or the example of static reference due date rectangle is empty. So I do have all this as a or condition. So what you can just do is here, we can just add another thing. Whatever the modifications which we want to do, we can just come here and go ahead and modify all those things. I can just mention example 1 2 3 1 2 3 dot static references dot invoice. Let's take the any of the other element, basically item nodes. So here in this, whatever you are able to see in this pink color are the properties, whatever you are able to see in this blue color are the elements which has been created. Okay, so let me take this due date dot is found. So here you can just go ahead and play with each and every code which has been written, right? So now I have written if not of whatever that element is, the static reference of invoice date and the static reference of due date. If both of these things are found, then you don't have to find this. Or if you want to find this, then you can just go ahead and remove this condition at a whole. So here is what the properties we can just go ahead and make to get whether to extract the element when there is a reference element, to not to extract the element when there is no elements. And also for example, here we do have all these things. I'll show you one more thing. If I go to the relation, I have 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, I have 5 relations, and here I'm just going to remove this. Just a minute. I'll remove this. And also, if you want this changes to be reflected, you just have to click on apply and then go to the advanced and click on the code. Your changes will be reflected here. If not, then definitely it won't be reflected anywhere, basically. Okay, so here now we have this relations. We have this relation with respect to this invoice date, basically. So let's consider I do have couple of the synonyms. Instead of invoice date, I have something called a date of invoice or invoice received, something like that. There are other synonyms for the whole for the same field which we are extracting when we are when we are creating a generic layout. So in that time, we can just go ahead here. I'll just go to the code again. I'll just select all and Control C, go to the advanced. Okay, here I can just go ahead and add the condition here. If of example 123 dot, sorry, it should be a dot static reference dot due date or invoice date dot is found, then my search region would be this. Else, if of the same thing, which I can just go ahead and take this. So maybe let's consider I do have another synonyms, and that synonym would be the due date. So for that, what I can just go ahead and do it is due date is found, go to an end, open brace and close brace, and here you can just go ahead and add your whatever the relations which you want to define. And how are we going to define those relations? This is very simple logic. So whatever the code whatever the properties which we are going to add in each and every tab, those properties will come as a code basically in the advanced tab. So here, if you just look at this, we have given the relation called above the top of this due date with the 0 offset, right? So for the same thing, we have a code above the top of the with 0. Okay, so here if you just look at this, above the due date of the top, 0 dots, and when it has to be applied, when it has to be applied is when I have this due date is found. So when the example reference is null, if not of, definitely the reference static element should not be null, or this due date rectangle empty should not be null. So when we have either one of these two, then we will just check the static reference is null or not, and that should not be null. And then we are going to define the above of the this is always your flexi layout name, this is always your group name, and this is always your element name, and this is the property. And these are the offsets which we are going to define, whether it is a positive offset or whether it is a negative offset. So whatever you were I have mentioned it there, right? Above of the top of 0 with due date, basically the due date with reference to the due date above the top of the 0. The same property has been added as a code here. So in the same way, what we can just do here for the if you want to add any other conditions, so you can just go ahead and add those conditions, like if of, okay, I just have to write this again, because once, okay, this is one more thing. If you just close this without applying, this will not reflect basically, right? So due date dot is found, then extract this, if of control V dot invoice date dot is found, then we are going to define another set of relation. Is it always that you just have to write a code here? No, not always. What you can just do is, like, you can just copy this to your one of the local templates. So let me take one of the notepad. I'm going to paste this here, and to apply this new set of relation with respect to invoice date, what we can just do is, I can just come back here, go to the relation, I can just remove all these things basically. Delete, add, and I'm going to add the relation with respect to only this invoice date basically. Write off invoice date. Okay, and I'm going to add two more, and I'm going to define above of the bottom with minus 15, the home minus 15 with the invoice date, and also I just make below of the top below of the top with minus 15, and you can just click on up save changes and apply, and here you can just go ahead and remove this. Okay, and apply, and when you go to the code, control C and come back to the advanced, and if you just paste it here, your relation now are with respect to the invoice. So what you can just do is like you can just copy these relations which has been defined with respect to this element, and go here and add those under here, control V. So now just copy all of them, come back here and paste it. So now if this due date is there, these are my set of relations, and okay, and my another if condition, I'll just take this another if condition. I'm just going to add another condition over here. Instead of due date, if my reference is dot invoice date dot invoice date dot is found of closed braces, then these are my relations. So this is how you can just go ahead and add any number of conditions for each and every element which you are going to extract. This is just simple relations which we are going to just define. When you're not sure how to go ahead and add these code, or actually you don't know how to write a code, what you can just do is like you can just do this simple conditioning. You can just go ahead and add any of the condition, either the looping or the conditions, everything is supportable here. So you can just go ahead and add any of the conditions, and if you don't know how really you it has to be written, and once after if written, you can just click on this, and if there is any error, then you will get this. Then okay, here, then if this, then you have to do this. So this is how you can just always go ahead and add your conditions. And once you have written all your code here for each and every uh, field which you're extracting, if you're not sure, you can just go ahead and click on here. If there are no errors, you will get no compilation, and definitely it is going to reflect in your properties. And after you that, just make sure you click on apply. If not, then your code will be just go back to your reset. So this is how here in the both, like how to go ahead and make sure to extract the values only when couple of the labels are available. You can just go ahead and add the conditions over here. If you want to modify by default whatever the or condition or whatever the and condition we do have, if you want to go ahead and modify that, you can just always come back and click on the code, and you will receive the code of the properties which you have added so far, and you can click on advanced and go here and write your own code. And if you add more conditions, you can just go ahead and add your conditions, and based on the existing of different static text, I mean to say the different synonyms, if you want to define the relations, you can just go ahead and extract all those synonyms. And you can also mention if that synonyms is found, you can just extract this, and along with that condition, you can just come here and define those relations. And once after you're done with this code, you can just go ahead and remove all the relations. So by default, it is going to pick the values from this specific advanced code. So this is about today's session, how we will be able to just go ahead and remove each and every property from each and every tab which we were discussing so far. So if you just look at this, even we have written all this date formats, right? Once I have chosen this specific format, how that has been defined. So if you just look at this, the date format, day month year plus month day year, date format, no leading zeros day and with leading zero day. So all the property which has been defined in each and every tab, for any element which we are going to define, everything will be stored here. And if you want to modify or add more conditions for any of these properties, you can just go ahead and modify those things in the advanced tab, whether it is a pre search relations or whether it is a post search relations. So this is all about for today. Maybe in our next session, I can just go ahead and explain you. Maybe if I can get some samples exactly for the different layouts for which we are going to create one generic template for sure in our next upcoming sessions by using all our previous sessions where we have learned how to create the layouts, how to add the conditions, how are we going to handle all the synonyms which when there is available, and also the classification. Along with that, how to add this relation, how can we make use of this advanced relations and the advanced code option to create a generic option. I'm just looking for a couple of the samples. If any one of you have a requirement of any such kind of templates which you want to create a generic, please feel free to reach out automation squad. Definitely we will be able to help you out by using all these properties. Okay, any questions?
No, Divya, we don't have any.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kranti.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
guys,
Divya.
have a great day.